There are many Pathies that will help you to explain chiropractic to your patients and to help you instill confidence in them for your service by this simple, very great, and satisfying psychological procedure. A few examples of these might be, in trying to explain chiropractic to your patients now, nerves control and regulate your health in much the same way as the thermostat controls and regulates the temperature in your home. If you get too cool, you could put on an overcoat. Or you could open the windows if you get too warm. But a better way, wouldn't it, would be to adjust the thermostat to make the whole house more comfortable and with the right temperature. Chiropractors remove the nerve interference that causes the condition and restore health to your entire body. Or you can say, suppose you have a good engine in your car. The spark plugs and cylinders are good, and the gas mixture is right, but because of an improper spark, the engine misses. Wouldn't you adjust the distributor points to make the engine run properly? Why, of course. You see, there is nothing wrong with the engine in your case, but it's not getting the proper spark. The same thing applies to your heart. As an organ, there is nothing wrong with it that anybody can find, as all the other doctors have told you. But due to nerve interference back here where these spinal bones are twisted on the nerves leading to your heart, the heart cannot function well. My job is to relieve the nerve interference so your heart will get a good spark and run normally and naturally. Or you might say, in explaining chiropractic to the patient, if you sit very long with your knees crossed, your foot might go to sleep. Pressure on the nerve that leads to your foot interferes with the nerve energy and your foot goes to sleep. That's exactly the way it is with your hand. You have pressure in your neck on the nerves that lead to your arm and hand. That pressure is caused by a bone in your neck that has slipped out of place. You will find that as you progress with your treatments here, and as your vitality returns, your eyes will get stronger and you will see more clearly again. You know how the headlights on a car look when the battery is run down, and how bright they get once the battery is charged again? Well, when we get the pressure off these nerves and your body gets built up, Mrs. Jones, you will really be charged. I'll bet you might even have enough energy left to go dancing once in a while. Of course, you would say that if it's proper and appropriate. And it applies to this particular patient. To help to convince your patient of the vital need for a series of adjustments gives us another need for a different kind of Pathie, and for the necessity of frequent care in the beginning. Many brown baggers have used the following. Correcting a defective spine is something like straightening teeth. If a dentist were to straighten badly aligned teeth in one treatment, the teeth sockets would be so badly damaged that the teeth would no doubt fall out. But of course he doesn't do it that way at all. He moves it a little at a time, which gives nature a chance to do her part. I'm going to do much the same thing. Each time you receive an adjustment or be checked here, I'll make as much correction as I can and as is needed. And although progress may seem slow at first, or even sometimes during your various series of adjustments, but almost before you know it, you'll be responding well, and then you'll soon be well. Or you might say, a series of adjustments is like an operation. If a surgeon told you that you needed an operation requiring 3 hours on the operating table, you surely wouldn't tell him you would try 15 minutes of surgery, would you? It would be better not to start, wouldn't it? The same is true with chiropractic care, Mrs. Brown. If for any reason you can't follow through with the minimum recommendations, I think it would be better not to start, for I'd rather not have you as a patient than to fail to get results. You want to get well, don't you? Well, then let's do things the right way. You might say, I know it seems that your condition started all of a sudden, just as a tire seems to blow out all of a sudden, or a light bulb seems to burn out all at once, but we know that it has been coming on for a long, long time. It would be wonderful, Mrs. Brown, if we could overcome this condition by just seeing you once each week. It would be wonderful, too, if we could get along with just one meal every 2 or 3 days, wouldn't it? But nature insists upon regularity. And in order to make this correction and give the body adequate time to heal, we must adjust you 3 times each week in the beginning. Now, brown baggers, to overcome any resistance on the part of your patients, to justify in their minds the cost of your services, it is many times helpful to say something like this. Whether you feel that chiropractic care is expensive, Mrs. Jones, depends upon the relative value that you place upon your health. This is a value that only you can establish. For example, this pencil that I am holding in my hand is worth exactly 5 cents. You can buy them any place for that. But if you had this pencil and you told me that you wanted $5 for it, well, I would probably consider it outrageous, wouldn't I? And yet, if this were the only pencil in the world, and I needed to write a message of life or death of importance, I would gladly give you $5 for it, wouldn't I? So you see, cost is relative. It depends upon the relative value you place upon the thing you want. Another good way to handle cost problems might be, good health, Mr. Harrison, is our most priceless possession. It is impossible to place a dollars and cents price on it, isn't it? It would probably be possible for you to spend or to lose far more than the total cost of your recommended chiropractic care just by missing a few days of work because of this condition that you have now. And of course, you will agree that your care we recommend is less expensive than even a few days in the hospital, too. Brown baggers, occasionally you could say something like this if you wanted to get a little more stronger in your explanation of comparison. Well, I'll bet you spend more on unnecessary luxuries or even on things that are harmful to your health each year than your entire series of adjustments will cost. In other words, in consultation, you listen for a story from them wherein they spent money on a luxury, and you can refer back to that again. Now, when explaining why at times there may be a slight temporary reaction following the beginning of their chiropractic care, you might use one of these analogies. Mrs. Smith, regaining health through chiropractic natural methods is like adjusting a telescope to see the horizon perfectly. The view comes and goes as we turn the lens, and each turn represents an adjustment. Sometimes it brings the picture into sharper focus, and at other times it might look a little dimmer. But finally we reach that perfect adjustment, and the horizon is beautiful. Regaining health through chiropractic is something like that. It seems to come and go a bit, but when the misalignments are finally corrected, health usually returns as naturally as the view becomes clear when the lens is correctly adjusted. Or you might say something like this: Mr. Smith, as you know, when a house starts settling, it gets out of alignment and the walls often crack, and the roof starts leaking, and maybe a water line breaks, just as your body develops different symptoms as your spine gradually gets out of alignment. Now, when you start to jack up and straighten the house, the same cracks and breaks may reappear, just as symptoms may reappear when we reverse the process by which you became ill and start to put your spine back into alignment. But as soon as we get the spine back into alignment, like getting the house straightened up again, then everything is in fine order and back where it was originally. To prepare a patient for the possibility of delay in noticing improvement, you might say during the first adjustment, in conditions such as yours, about a third of the patients notice improvement very quickly. However, sometimes the condition is like a runaway car rolling downhill. You don't jump in front of the car and stop it immediately. You have to run alongside it for a distance before you can jump in and apply the brakes. A doctor doesn't usually jump in front of a disease and stop it immediately. Sometimes a disease has picked up such speed and momentum that it continues quite a ways and maybe even gets worse before it is checked and under control. Then you turn around and start back on the road to recovery. Restoring health is sometimes like restoring a withered, dried-up plant that has been through a drought. You don't put water on a withered plant tonight and expect it to have lush green foliage tomorrow. You don't expect it to burst into full bloom the next day. It takes time for nature's healing processes to work when disease has been dominant a long time. Just be patient, Miss Brown. From all indication, your nerves are responding, and you should certainly notice improvement soon. For those patients who do respond quickly and feel so much better before they have fully recovered, or their conditions have been fully corrected, that they then want to discontinue their course of treatments, these analogies have been very effective. Mrs. Smith, when you make a dress, you stitch the seams all the way down and reinforce them at points of strain, don't you? Otherwise, they might rip out about the second time you wear the dress. Continuing chiropractic care until your spine is completely aligned in the right position and the muscles are strong enough to hold it there will make it wear longer and prevent future needed repairs. Then an occasional adjustment will keep your spine in good shape, just as an occasional cleaning and pressing keeps a well-made dress looking nice. That's what we want, isn't it, Mrs. Smith?